All right, well, hello, my good friends. Welcome to another weekly edition of Stock Market Mutterings, a Labor Day edition of Stock Market Mutterings. So enjoy the holiday. And I'll tell you what, it is a much needed day off, is it not? Because this August, man, it was, whew, it's exhausting. It is exhausting. This market is so headline sensitive. You're up 1 minute, you're down the next, you're bullish, you're bearish. It's just bouncing around inside of this wide range. We're going to talk a little bit about that. I know a lot of you have reached out over the last couple of weeks. I want to answer some of your questions with that as we do this mutterings. But for the most part, enjoy your day off. Get rested up, re-gear, take time to study, look at your charts, get ready to have a good September, and let's try to close this year out real solid here on these last few months. So let's kind of talk about that here just for a second, is that when you go through a market cycle like this, trust me, I know, it's frustrating as hell. I mean, you're getting spun around here sometimes. And like I've said over the last couple of weeks with market mutterings, you're just one headline away sometimes from either fortune or absolute disaster. You could be in a really nice trade, things can be going really well, and then all of a sudden a tweet or a headline or something like that just completely reverses this market. Now, this is something that we all have to go through. The market goes through these periods. If you go back and you look traditionally over history and you look at bear markets and corrective markets, they all have that same type of behavior. Yes, some are deeper and longer than others, but for the most part, they all have a behavior. And what happens here, and the reason it's so frustrating for a trader, is because it feels as if it happens instantaneously. Now, we've talked about this as well in a few market mutterings ago. I can't remember which one, but I'll touch on a few of these things to help you. But you go from something like a very docile market where things seem to just be clicking all in one direction. So like in June, we were ultra bullish. Everything was just melting up. All the dips were getting bought. There's virtually no volatility. You kind of roll right into July. July 4th, going into that holiday, it was like markets just busting out all-time highs every 2 to 3 days. And it just seems like it's never going to end. And then all of a sudden, like within a snap of a finger, the very last day, if you look at the SPY chart right here, that's when it all began, and you get this initial burst of selling. Now, when we compare this time to some of the recent corrections, we go back and we look at like December's correction. And I said this in the market mutterings, there's always a sign first, because the market just doesn't crash from all-time highs. So I've always had this saying like, bear markets last long, but selling does not. And what I mean by that is there's always these bursts of selling. There's always this panic moment, and then things take a moment and they level out, or they bounce around, or they chop around in a tight direction where we are. And then you're going to see another really exaggerated move, either up or down here very soon, because you're not going to stay within this range for a long period of time. At some point, probably throughout the month of September, we're going to see one of these levels go, which is either this 50 moving average, which the market was at on Friday, and just a few days before that, down around the 283s, which is just slightly above the 200 moving average. And maybe by that time they connect. But what I want to focus on to help everyone out here, when you're looking at stuff like this and you're trading, it's emotionally draining and frustrating, because you go from a really calm nature to a very calm market to this extreme, everything's bouncing around. So you as a trader, your job is to have to adjust just like that. I mean, you have to change your bias, you have to change your thoughts, you have to change everything about you just like that. That's your requirement, because at some point, everything that you know is going to change. So when you ask, how do you deal with this? This is where when I've done hundreds of whiteboards in the past, and I've had hundreds of talks, and I always said, block out the noise, turn off this shit, focus on your charts. That's what this means, trading without emotion. It's for moments like this, not when everything's just going in one direction and trading is easy. It's for times like this when you're trying to get through these really sloppy, ignorant, crazy, absurd type of moves that go either way. You just have to block out the noise. You just have to shut out the noise, pay attention to what it is that you're trading. And we've gone through those steps, making sure that you look for quality trade opportunities, only tier 1A type setups, no sort of money to play with or risk money on the table right now, lower position size, tighter stops. You just have to work your way through it, because that's the cards that you're giving. So remember that as traders, we can't control the market. Nothing that we say or do, and none of us have enough money to move this market. And we can whine all we want about manipulation. We can complain all about everything politically. We can complain about China. We complain about trade war. We can do all of that. It's not going to make a bit of difference. It's not going to pay your mortgage payment. It is not going to pay your car payment. You got to work your way through this. And for you guys that are going through this for the first time, the second time, you learn from these moments. It's stuff like this. It's markets like this. This is what makes you. Everybody can trade good in a bull market. Everybody's a hero in a bull market. It's stuff like this that separates the winners from the losers, my friend. So you got to do it. You got to do it. And some of you are going to learn. It's going to take you some time to learn. You're going to pay your dues along the way, but you'll get it. You stay in there. You work with it. You work in it day. You learn. You take notes. You rehearse your stuff. You're going to be just fine. But block out the noise. Pay attention to these charts. Pay attention to the signals that the market's giving you, because there is a lot of noise out there that'll really screw you up. So don't quit your trading. You know, if you're a day trader and you got to make money, you got to do this. If you're a hobbyist or a swing trader, or you're just playing around on the spare time, yeah, wait till the market settles down. But anyway, we're going to see a big move here soon. I'm not saying it's going to be this week or the following week, but at some point these ranges, they're going to get taken out. Now, when I look at the market, one of the interesting things is all of these big sell days that we've had outside of the first couple days of the month were just one-day events. So you had this really big gap down. The market trades back up to that. We're just going to go with we're going to use 294 as top side resistance, 282 is bottom side. And then you spend most of the next few days up there, and then you just, immediately you have this big sell-off that takes you back down into the lows. You go right back up to the highs. When I'm saying highs, I'm talking about the 50 moving average, the resistance there, 294, not all-time highs. And then you get washed out. Remember last Friday, just an enormous sell-off. But it only lasts, these sell-offs are normally just lasting still just for one day. So we start out Monday, we kind of settle in, we're back and forth on Tuesday. China comes out, surprises everybody with a headline, which is showing you how ridiculous this market can be and how headline sensitive it is. They're just recycling news that was talked about last year, but the market just loved it. And up it goes. So see, we don't have control of it. There's nothing that we can do about stuff like that. And then it goes right up in there Friday. And it looks like Friday, man, we're going to break out. And the market just starts selling off. So you just got to block out the noise and just pay attention. But just kind of going forward here, I'm not going to put too much analysis right here in the market because it's touch and go. It can go either way. But maybe if you get a close above that 50 moving average as you go forward, if you're bullish and you're trying to stay on the bullish side and you're looking for bullish signals, you got to close above 294. You've got to close above 294 to 295. Otherwise, we're just going to end up testing the low. Now, we have spent more of the month up towards the part of that range trying to break it than we have down at the bottom. However, if you start to see some selling, I would think this time around, if there is any selling or heavy pullbacks from here, you might see this 200 moving average. So that's the market. Let me wipe off my sweat because it is burning up here in San Diego. Now, I'm getting into it too. I'm giving you this market mutterings. It's making me sweat. I'm going to do like an aerobic video. I have some stocks here I want to look at. I want to talk about two first. I'm going to give you more than two, but we're going to talk about two first. We're going to start out with this Roku. I freaking love Roku. I want to marry Roku. No, I really don't mean that. I love Roku. Man, I love me some Roku. This has by far been my best stock of 2019. I know it's ignorant. It's up like 330%. If you swung trade that thing from the beginning of the year, good for you. I didn't. I just been trading along the way ever since it's been 40. But what a monster, especially after these last two earnings announcements. This thing's just gone ballistic. And it's given some great opportunities. Like this week, we had a couple of times where it opened up red or traded red and sold down $2 or $3 to start the day and ended up going green. This thing's just like a piece of magic. But what I kind of want to do here is I want to start looking. I'm not saying this is something that's going to happen next week, but I want to start looking at spots to short it. Just because I mentioned those words, 330%. At some point, it's just going to become unattractive. Now, I don't know when that's going to be. Maybe it goes to 160 first or 170. I don't know. But I want to look at a couple of different things. And here's the way I want to play this. If this thing goes vertical at any spot early on, outside of a news event on top of that, you got to be thinking short because these spikes that this thing has intraday, like if you look at the top chart here, they've been giving back those spikes. So I think if it goes parabolic or you start pressing the 165s, maybe let me take that back, 155s, 160s, possibly I think you're going to tap out there at some point, especially if the chart just keeps going. Now, on the flip side of that, anytime this thing opens up and flushes and goes -3, -4, again, barring maybe a downgrade or something like that, I'd still look to get long this thing for a trade. I'm not going to hold it overnight. I'm not swinging. I think if you're investing into this and you've enjoyed a big piece of this run up, most of the meat's probably been stripped off the bone here. I think this thing, if nothing else, will just level off and go quiet for a while. But damn, what a stock. I mean, I'd like to see it trade back down into probably 135s, I think would be nice. But again, we're just going to have to watch. And I'm not saying just run right into it because it's up 300%, because it can go a lot higher if it wants to. And it's been bucking the trend. I mean, it keeps finding ways to go up. So if this thing settles in, builds bases like this intraday. I mean, you had some great range with this thing on Friday. You go vertical here, then it sells off straight. Then it collects itself through midday and then starts to grind back up. I mean, it just keeps doing that over and over again, and that's how you make some money. Another one that is semi like that, but has maybe a different look to it right now, is Shopster. Now, I don't love Shop. Shop and I don't have the same kind of relationship with Roku because I haven't made the money on Shop. I should have, but I have not. So I don't like Shop as much. But I'm thinking this one, I mean, what is it? It was like $100 to start the year. Same thing. I've been trading this one since it's been 100, but I haven't done nowhere near like Roku. Now you're at $400. Same scenario. Same scenario with this one. Going to start looking for shorts. Now it already pulled back. Now this one had weakness against the market. While the market was being bullish those 2 days, it actually was selling off and then got sold off on Friday when the market was selling down. I think this thing has a test coming of 346 in this. I think you're going to see a pretty steep and stiff pullback. I mean, we all had that same thing with Boeing a couple months back. Well, maybe it was longer than that by now, but remember Boeing just ripping it up there, putting in those big premiums. A lot of these stocks that have done that, they're going to pull back. At some point, that's what the market always does. It'll raise prices high enough to turn off investors, and then it'll sell off deep enough to attract investors. That's just what it's been doing since its inception. So I'm kind of looking at these two, got a little top of my mind, thought maybe look at some shorting here on these, especially on verts. Let's move to some others. Netflix. I don't like Netflix either. At the beginning of the year, Netflix was cool. Netflix and I, over the last couple of months, this stock, whew, man, let me tell you. Let's just talk about it for a second. The only thing that really saved this stock was the big bulls days. Wednesday and Thursday. I want you to take a good look at this. You got a pretty stout bottom laying down there at 287.20. You're not too far off of that. So just kind of like we talked about TSLA a few weeks ago, if this thing trades down in there and loses that, you're probably going to see a steeper, stronger, more aggressive sell. Pretty much kind of like what you saw back here on the 14th, where it traded down quite a few bucks. I think you're at least going to test that. It wasn't that impressive over the last couple of days with its bounces, and it was sold off pretty heavy right there on Friday. I would expect you at least to get back down and test this 287, and possibly if you break 287, you may even go a little bit lower. I kind of like this one. I like this one as a short. I'm not interested in buying it right now. That could always change, but it would have to do a little bit more pattern building down here to convince me that it was ready to stick a move to the upside. TTD is another one here. I'm also leaning to this one short, which I was bullish on this name a couple of weeks ago. And these are just trades, by the way, guys. Like TSLA, which TSLA, in all due respect, held off its bottom. But this, I got the line right here, 239.75. You can see it right here on the chart. You got multiple bottoms stretching all the way back to the later part of July. That's pretty far. And you got wicks just hanging in there. If this thing loses it, and this is what we all talk about. There's all these traders out there. You guys always want to know, how do you catch these big moves? How do you know when a chart, is going to have this explosive inflection point where everything just kind of lines up and it takes off? You see stocks do that all the time, but maybe you don't know why. And that's because they have these significant range breaks. So as you're making these trades, what's the most important thing is not your indicators and all that other trash. I shouldn't call it trash. That was kind of mean. But the most important thing is price. Price is everything. Is somebody willing to pay it or somebody not? What is the price that you're trading at? How important is this number that you're looking at? So when you're making a trade, if you ever ask yourself, how important is this? So if you're shorting, like we're talking about Netflix there, if you're shorting it now, you're far away. We're not real far away, but you're kind of far away from the lows there. That's where the big money is on that number. So when you're talking about where could something potentially happen, 239.75. If you get down in there, you will either see a sharp recovery or a really strong bounce, something like what you saw today, where it got very close to that, and then it makes this big bounce. I know there's a lot of traders out there that wonder, why the hell did it bounce there? That's because it's down by support. But if it eventually loses that, you're probably going to see even bigger move than that. So TTD, I like that one. And then maybe team. I was thinking about, since this one actually lost the moving average and broke its support, well, it kind of barely held that there. I want to watch this one too, kind of going forward, 130.80. Same thing as TTD. You lose 130.80. You're probably looking at a short, a really nice breakdown trade. If you hold that on multiple attempts, you're probably looking at for a bounce. Now, when these bounces come, let's say we're going back to all-time highs with them, or they go back to daily chart highs, but they'll probably provide you with some good cash flow if you're an intraday day trader or something like that. So I'm going to leave it there, guys. I'm burning up. I put a lot of work into this. This market through the month wore me out. Man, I need my day off. I want to do the old chilling out, maybe cook out some tofu or something. Not the best food to cook out. But anyway, that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to enjoy it. You enjoy it. Take care. If you need help, you want to start your September out, you want to try to get better control over your trading, visit the linkenlist.com. Trade with me. I've been through this. I shall guide you. Until next week, thanks for watching Market Mutterings. Like the video if you like it. Support the channel by subscribing. Until next week, take care. Trade well.